Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review season 1 and 2 of My Hero Academia. I'm going to give people a chance, if you guys do not know what this anime is about, to get to know it. I'm going to break down, very in a cryptic like sense, what the show is, give you a double five time count, go into spoilers about both seasons and how I felt about both seasons, and eventually probably heading into season 3 eventually. Uh, in a very cryptic like sense, one thing that I will honestly break it down is All Might has this power called uh, One for All or All for One. I'm gonna get those confused clearly because once we head into the second season, there's a reason why that is gonna get really jumbled and confused. Just because of how many repetitious times they kind of mention those words all jumbled together. So ultimately, if I accidentally say all for one or one for all, uh, clearly that was either a correct or incorrect mistake, but it's very confusing to remember which one is always which for which things I mentioned. So that might be a little fluff up. But anyways, for for people that do not know this show at all, in a very cryptic like sense, this is probably the best kind of hero anime way about doing things. This Tiger and Bunny and the boys are probably the best ways to actually do like a hero show because instead of having like a superhero just kind of being hated and feared or being just this kind of very much hero that bizarrely has to come up with some kind of costumes, desperately trying to come up with his own stuff, this and this and that. They're in fact in this show, superheroes are actually much more mainstream. It is actually much more like openly accepted, and people are really actually working together and stuff like that. A lot of people will break this story down in the simplest way and just call it like it's basically like X Men. Oh yeah, that's probably the easiest way about going about this. You have people that eventually get um, to, I would assume, hit puberty, and a lot of people end up with these things called quirks, aka a mutation. This mutation ends up taking them from a regular school to going into a hero school, to where seemingly like a sky high kind of thing. That's kind of how this works as well. If you've ever seen the animated movie Sky High, it kind of works in that same vein as well. The Kurt Russell movie. So you have these people that can ultimately lead to be either sidekicks for a much grander hero, or they can ultimately become a hero in their own right just because of how their power tends to work. Going into this, I was like, man, this is pretty awesome just because it's like reasonably it's like one heroes are mainstream in this show, which I ultimately just was like so in awe about, just to have a hero not have to cower and be hated and feared and this and that, and like everyone accepts people being a hero, and if anything they're just like, yeah, like great, he has powers, good, so he's gonna be he's gonna he's gonna go and help people. Ultimately you have like moms and stuff like that, like making their costumes for their young heroes and stuff like that, which is kind of funny. um the only thing that like I can say is like a downside, but I guess it's something that you have to over kind of seasons or over time kind of get used to. Like I never quite understood exactly some of the outfits kind of matching, really matchy match with kind of the powers at some points. Like I was just kind of like, okay, like you would think the main character kid would look very much almost like a Superman-esque like character, but instead, he looks fairly weird and or odd. He looks very much uh, like a kangaroo-esque like character, but in full on green, and it never really quite made sense to me. Um, but anyways, we go into this show and we have an entire classroom full of all of these people that are quite possibly being heroes. The only thing is, I wish that we could have also been getting, maybe per different seasons, we could have also seen much more like a real true like villain recruitment thing, like kind of a villain school as well, which would seem very bizarre. Um, Maybe people a lot of times playing the fence, being a villain or being a hero, and them being having to transfer to schools just because they are who they are, or just because they're a descendant of a villain or this and that, or they're a descendant of a hero or this and that. But anyways, so you have it to where in this show you have a character called All Might, who basically in a lot of terms, like, he's this world's like Superman, and basically like his powers seem to be um like almost just like a very much Superman-esque like thing. He doesn't have laser beams coming out of his eyes, but he otherwise is just like uberly like strong and powerful, and it seems like to try to combat All Might is basically like don't even try. Um, Anyways, All Might, we find out is consistently, like, of course, getting older, and it seems that All Might is starting to realize that he is becoming weaker over time, getting to the point to where uh, he realizes that he cannot actually fully fledgedly use his powers for a greater part of the day. Like, it kind of gets down to, like, instead of him being able to have this all might power for like an entire day, sometimes it'll like dwindle down to a couple hours or even less than that. And like that's how we go throughout a couple seasons with this All Might eventually realizing that his days are numbered. Because All Might really did overly like basically destroy his body, and ultimately he realizes that All Might can transfer his power, like um his one for all, or his overall like superpower that I think is called one for all, I believe. Um, or because yeah, so we have it to where he can transfer his power to somebody, and this person that is chosen is a kid that otherwise just doesn't have any powers whatsoever. It's kind of like a Captain America kind of situation where this kid's spirit is kind of bigger than his muscles or uh he has willpower. He has willpower so much more so than anybody else. And All Might takes a liking to this kid and ultimately decides like, hey, like this kid is so desperate to have a quirk and he doesn't have one. I think it's my time to give this kid my power, but not like 100% absolute, like that he is absolutely going to get it, and I'm absolutely going to be completely drained of this whole thing. Um, it's kind of like a transfer, and only really this kid only gets a a percentage of All Might's power. He doesn't get like 100% of All Might's power at one time, because All Might is still being All Might through this season, or through at least these 2 seasons. I'm not sure about anything past that. Um, I did see, like, I think there are later seasons where I think there is some kind of other kind of hero that I was like, wow, this guy looks visually interesting. Like, you kind of see him plastered onto the later seasons, but I'm like, but yeah, but I want to work my way up to that. I don't want to just see who this character is. Like, I think he has like a 1 million or something, or 100, like he has a big gigantic number slapped onto his chest, and I'm like, oh, this guy looks freaking awesome. Like, who the heck is this guy? Um, but yeah, it's just like me having to work my way up to that point, because I'm like, yeah, this character looks awesome. Who is he? So ultimately, I hope I can eventually get to that point. Hopefully, no one spoils it. Like, don't let me know in the comments below who this character is. I want to kind of lead up to that. Um, who knows? Anyways, it would be kind of interesting if like All Might just bizarrely had a real son. That would be kind of fascinating to see All Might actually having a biological son that like you didn't even know existed. Anyways, we go into this, and reasonably, the thing that I probably don't like, um, there's things that I don't like about the first season. I like the kind of consistently like character building where we have this kid that ultimately has to learn how to use his power and keeps hurting himself. But I like how it like really builds character. You invest in this character clearly, and um, I consistently like the times where it seems like you like really in the first season you really get to know who these like individual characters are. We have like um one kid who of course has the power of speed, that is consistently like this teacher, like he kisses up to all the teachers and stuff like that, and like we're just like we don't like this kid, like yeah, whatever. But we get a kind of wide range of kind of different characters that get kind of put in the mix, and some of them are very much um, like uh, they'll keep pushing people. They'll almost kind of be like almost like a school bully, but in all actuality, they're just gonna like they're gonna push themselves to the brink every single time, because they will do whatever to win, and that's that's an interesting way to like learn, like have these characters, or have people learn that it's like, yeah, you can try whatever you can do to try to win, but a lot of times you just have to strategize, and you have to like, um, it's really interesting to see kind of like the way that they go about this first season, and um, like you kind of get to invest in a lot of characters, but then going into the second season, it's very much like, okay, like it's an entire season about competition. Like it's a entire season about contests and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like, man, this kind of just like, I don't know about second season, because I'm like, man, I wish we could have really gotten to where we have a whole entire season about them actually getting to one point of that season. Besides having to go through all these like in X-Men terms, it's like them going through like the Danger Room for an entire season, and then we finally get to like an interesting point, but then that's taken away to just go right back into the Danger Room kind of thing for the second season. Um, but I also like I kind of liked how they kind of like really did like sprinkle in a few stuff going on in that first season, kind of like that. Um, like they kind of gave us like the Danger Room barely in the first season, because a lot of times it's just character building of the main character. The only thing that I kind of really got annoyed severely with the main character, the main focal point of character, Deku, yeah, he just freaking just cries a lot. He's like consistently, I'm never gonna make it. It's never gonna happen. And like God, with how many times that this main character cries in this first season, you get really, really annoyed with this character of how many numerous times he cries to the point where, luckily, in the second season, they kind of jokingly um, put that out there, but they realize they're like, haha, we're not going to do that again. Where this is a character that is consistently going to cry all the time because we realize how annoyed people were when that happened in the first season, so we're not going to do that this season. Um, Luckily enough, because, like, good God, this character cries too much. It's so annoying. Oh my God, stop crying, guy. This is just like numerous. Like, I understand maybe the crying points were probably just like a filler of time and maybe for you to invest in the character, but it kind of invested me to just like, oh, here he goes again. Like, I want to fast forward through these whole crying moments so I can get to the more important, like, learning tool or something like that that this kid could get into, because it's just, um, yeah, it really was kind of interesting to see like how eventually this kid, knowing full well like his use of power, and he is really overall just figuring out how to strategize. Like in the first season, like Deku really realizes how like okay, like he's really outmatched with somebody. So what he tends to do is he tends to like use one move with his power and like learns how to take somebody out with one move. Like learns how to um, like learns he hurts himself a lot, but he learns um, how to like get through his mistakes and how he can kind of maneuver and stuff like that while also learning about these new characters and their quirks because that's the big thing about the first season is kind of this kid learning about who all of his classmates are and what can they do. In the second season, it's very much just like, okay, I already know what this person's quirk is, unless they have like new students, and then then they have to learn like how to, okay, this person has this quirk, okay, so now I have to, because consistently like there's evidently new students coming into this school like every per season, so you have to have new people that they don't know what quirks or whose, because um I don't know why, it just seems like evidently you get new classmates and stuff like that per every school year. So anyways, there I think the second season there's a lot of smart things going on. Like there's a lot more like thinking things out in the second season, where I think in the first season like people are going off like half cocked and just kind of uh just kind of not really thinking about things, or just kind of having a like they ultimately mentioned that they kind of have like a strategy afterwards, which that tends to happen sometimes in this show, where ultimately like somebody had known about a plan this entire time and it, ooh yay, it worked out. um, a lot of times a lot of people are just kind of like in the very first season, like the skin of their hair is just like oh god, I just barely did this, thank god. I just barely but also a lot of the show is really just tied into the story of either Deku or All Might. It's a lot, and I mean a lot, about All Might and a lot about Deku, and it's a lot about them building a relationship together, and um, and that just kind of, it like becomes like Karate Kid for the very first season, and then the second season, like they really push that. It's like, hey, we want to, like, hey, we barely show these, like, this hero classroom. That's what we're going to be focusing in the second season. So um a lot of character building for barely any people in the first season. The second season, you get a lot more bigger character building, because ultimately it gets to a bigger, more interesting point towards the later half of the season, which ultimately I'm like, yeah, I can't wait till these people are just kind of out of this school. I can't wait for them to actually legitimately be a legit licensed hero, because that's what I'm waiting for. That's where I'm much more excited about, is to see ultimately where they push this thing. And I also want to see eventually the kid actually fully get to use, like, much more than the power that he's kind of um, that he has. Like, I eventually want those numbers to increase of him being able to use a lot more of this power that he got donated from All Might, and this and that. But it seems like now, like, he's really much figuring out how to really use his power and how to use it to seemingly a real true advantage, considering, like, All Might, like, it didn't really seem like he used this power to do these kinds of things. Um, but again, this kid learning how to use his power differently from All Might. So it's kind of very much like, it's very fascinating. It's very interesting. Um, and it's kind of really interesting to see All Might really looking at this younger apprentice, and he's consistently going, yeah, I never did anything like that, or like, yeah, I didn't have to, like, work as hard as this kid did, and this and that. But yeah, so yeah, All Might eventually training this kid on how to learn his power, and reasonably, it's kind of hilarious how, like, I honestly think that, like, especially once this kid goes into other teachings and stuff like that, like, I honestly and truly believe, like, All Might, like, sucks at teaching. For, like, I think, like, a lot of the times it's just like he's more like the gym teacher than, like, an actual teacher. Like, it doesn't really seem like he can much teach actually much of anybody. Um, it doesn't really seem like anybody's going to be learning anything from All Might, with the exception of maybe there's some students that won't give up against unstoppable odds, and so, like, All Might is kind of talking to them and kind of talking them through. It's like, God, you're making such a grave mistake, because, like, my power is unlimited and you are just so stubborn, and you just won't like, you're relying too much on yourself, and you need to rely on others around you, and this and that, and just, like, how, like, some people have to really get that beaten into them. And because there's some people that their pride is just too freaking just, like, there's so many characters that have too much pride in this show. I think that's the best thing about this show, is a lot of characters have to be, like, basically broken or beaten down, because they have too much pride, or for them, they kind of boast about things in the very early seasons to pay for it later. Because we have very much students who ultimately have, like, a descendant who ultimately has had a uh, hero within their family that has been a prior superhero, or you have um, fathers who were great superheroes to now their kid that is ultimately going into school and is, like, wanting to prove something to their fathers or whoever. And yeah, very much interesting way about going about into this. But I think it's about that time to go into real, true spoilers. Um, God, there's so much fascinating and or interesting things about this show. It would be interesting to see eventually if this My Hero Academia ever were to actually do somehow or another like a live action, try to branch out of this movie. Like I think you could accomplish it. I think it probably would take a lot of special effects, and it probably would take like, man, would it take like a lot of special effects, but then like a lot of like, I don't know if you could exactly break it down in one movie and people would be copacetic about it. Like I think it probably is better as a series because ultimately you can, because I think it would just be like people would be hungry for more. Having just one off film and then that's it would make people hugely disappointed just because it's like, man, like yeah, that like even if the movie is really awesome, people would just be waiting for the next one to come along, and if for this and that and reasons, if it doesn't work out, then anyways. But I know there's a Hero Academia. I think there's a movie out there that's done in anime, but and this and that. But anyways, let's get into spoilers about this movie or about this show. So yeah, so I'm gonna break down season one. I kind of technically did for the most point, but um, so kind of like really kind of breezing through season one. So if I already had mentioned that, like again, the story is mainly focused on All Might and his kind of journey through helping out or helping through heroes. Like the main thing is kind of showing how great and grandiose that All Might is, him saving so many people and this and that. But like in the real second season, they kind of really way away from that. They really show All Might very much less and less and less in this show, which is kind of interesting because I'm like, okay, so I guess reasonably, uh, you really have to have this All Might character who's been used way too much in the first season. Let's really taper down and kind of have him kind of a very scarcity because again, it's to the much more B, C, D character list characters in the second season. So going into this first season, if I didn't mention, the main character tends to cry a lot because good God does he cry. Uh, we have this character being handed to this power because he has none, and reasonably we have a whole like seemingly episode. It's always a montage about how like when he goes into the school and how he makes his mistake and he breaks his fingers or he breaks a bone in his arm or he like hurts himself consistently in this season. It's like, well, yeah, you you used more than the excess of the power than you can use. um like you like for this kid, like he assumes that since he technically has All Might's power, that he could be able to um, just beat everybody. And that is not the case because he only has a portion of All Might's power. He doesn't have all of it because he hasn't technically earned that yet. Because he just hasn't. Um, so we go and consistently like start learning about some of these other students. Like I said, we have a kid that I believe his power is that his body is like an engine, and supposedly like he has like these kind of like exhaust pipes coming out of his legs, and like his power is speed. We get to find out that this kid has a brother who has a ton of sidekicks and stuff like that, and evidently he's a hero, and ooh, yay, great for him. But this kid is very much like a stuck-up kid because, of course, he's from a descendant of heroes. So, um, this guy just assumes that, like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be the greatest thing in this school and this and that, but everybody hates him just because he's a suck up to all the teachers. We get to the point of like people kind of like really feeling one another out. Like some people are kind of easily making friends. It seems like in the very first season, like the kid who gets his powers transferred to him, Deku, seems to like at first very much like he really is making friends with, I think, a lot of the outcasts of the class. Like there's a girl that consistently has these like frog like powers, and it seems like a lot of times like in this very first season, it seems like she like very much is like going with him, and kind of like slowly but surely they're becoming friends. And like it seems like Deku is very much also seemingly getting some girls and stuff like that, and some barely kind of like guys are kind of looking at him and like, hey, yeah, good for you. But there, of course, is this one kid where his power is to basically just like his power is just to use explosions. It's kind of interesting. He has these like grenades for hands. Um, but I kind of wish that like his outfit really like if you're really gonna go with it, like it seems like his like outfit is like super generic. Um, but it is, I guess, kind of funny. But yeah, when you look at some of these outfits, like some of these outfits doesn't quite like you also get the very like X-Men kind of approach to like some of these outfits where like some of them are just all wearing the exact same like gym school outfits. They're all wearing like blue and white and this and that. And then when they actually get out in the field where they actually supposedly have to like uh, be incognito, which like Deku, like he barely ever wears his mask that he has for himself. Especially in the second season, he like never wears it. Um, so I don't quite like. You would think every single one of these characters would really go out of their way to hide every single one of their identities, but half of them don't. Or a lot of them, it's just kind of like they slap on some more paint, and that's the difference between um, them in costume and out of costume, or this and that. Like, there's not much of actually hiding identities, or there's not much of really just like I guess you could probably figure out who it is eventually, anyways. And this and that. But anyways, uh, a lot of times I think the outfits are just kind of like this isn't quite exactly like this would not be something that I would think that this person would actually be wearing if they were this hero. Like I would think there'd be some kind of like, especially the character that has like half hot, half cold kind of power. Like I would think he would have like this like Two-Face kind of outfit where like half of his body would be one color and then half of his body would be another, and this and that in the very first season and something like that. Like really have like a Two-Face kind of outfit. But I guess like his hair represents that because half of his hair is white, half of his hair is red, and then he has this like birthmark of or not birthmark. He eventually, I think he had gotten like burnt um, at some point. Anyways, so we go into this first season and reasonably we have it to where at first like we have like a 1v1 kind of thing where like people are fighting kind of one-off against people, and like I'm just kind of like, okay, this is interesting. We have like we interestingly enough has have the main character is ultimately desperate to try to figure out how to use his power. and use it against this guy that is consistently exploding and using these like awful weapons against him. Funny enough, in the second season, how they do with these two characters. It seems like consistently the people that they first fight against in this thing, eventually in the second season they do something kind of the same approach with them, um, or they kind of like tie them together again. It's weird, but anyways, you ultimately have it to where you have this like cluster of teachers that are all kind of like judging um, judging and giving points to these students, and you get to see, interestingly enough, all these heroes and stuff like that. They're like, "Ooh, wow, this character looks cool," as well as you getting this like announcer guy that is kind of like the giving it a very much real fight feel, kind of showcasing like seemingly as if this thing was going to be on TV somewhere. About like because that's how they approach this. It's like, yeah, it feels like all of this superhero school stuff is going to be on a TV somewhere for everyone to watch. Like that's how they kind of approach this. Um, that's how they approach that the heroes are so much mainstream that it feels like they're going to get their own TV show somewhere, or radio station or something like that, to where everybody knows about them. Um, we eventually get into the first season where a lot of these like students like really don't have any like outside experience with really actually like having their life actually on the line. Um, it gets more and more into the season where like All Might has to kind of like fight off villains, and like some villains tend to appear, and then the actual heroes have to like really step in and like take out some villains, while a lot of the kids are just kind of off, just going like, well, yeah, I guess we just have to run away because we won't know what we're doing and this and that. But anyways, we ultimately have a pretty good showing of one of the heroes that ultimately like um, his quirk is like he has to put like eye drops into his eyes consistently, and like he has the power of eliminating someone else's power and eventually kind of like tying them up. Um, I thought that was kind of very much like fascinating to see like the kind of different kind of approaches of heroes and stuff like that, just besides All Might and this and that. Um, Eventually, we get to the aspect of like towards the very end of this first season, because I want to kind of rush through this. We eventually have a giant cluster of villains all coming into um, this kind of very much arena like place where All Might is kind of teaching these students. All these villains start approaching all these heroes because ultimately they all want to take down All Might, and they hope that if they all come and bang against All Might, um, to where eventually they're hoping that All Might is eventually hoping that they're going to get all the other heroes to be called up to go up against them. And here's the thing: like in the second season, it gets very much like interesting how they can like post where like evil's going down to other heroes, and there's kind of like a social media esh like portion of this kind of hero kind of getting together thing and posting like what's going on and this and that. I thought that was very fascinating. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. So if anybody is having problems, somebody can post something somewhere, and then everybody can be alerted by it. Great. Like especially for whoever is like near the area. Um, that was fascinating to me. I really enjoyed that. But anyways, we have All Might that is fighting off all of these villains, and All Might is consistently looking, and like it's kind of uh like All Might is really using like we're really using like time like to click away to ultimately like have All Might using his powers for like seconds. Like he realizes, oh my god, I only have 10 seconds left of this power, like, and I'm still fighting this villain and this and that, or I'm using too much of my power, I'm exerting too much of myself going up against this character, and this and that, which I found was fascinating. I really enjoyed that. It does get to the point where like All Might is just consistently fighting this person, and the descendant of All Might's power realizes that like All Might only has certain amount of minutes as well to use his power. So this kid is really just going like, oh hey guys, like hey, eventually like All Might is eventually going to have to like 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 he tries to phrase it to where it's like there's a lot of times where like this kid is worried about All Might's power running out, so he comes up with some kind of scheme or something like that to try to just kind of push other people to just go, yeah, hey, we need to help him out because yeah, he's gonna run out of his power, but I'm not gonna tell other people that, but I'm gonna try to like make All Might look good so that way he can run away while we come at him and combat him and this and that. Um, Knowing full well that All Might's power is gonna like we need to save him. Very much interesting to see all like the side heroes that are like at first they're so terrified and so scared, and like this kid is trying to be a leader to them and push them to just say, "Hey, this is life or death. Like we need to do this." Like, and so they're like, "Okay, all right." So ultimately, you have a lot of the characters that are kind of using their powers to their best ability and try to take down all these villains because they're clearly being outnumbered, and like it's a real huge like real battle out, which I thought was great. So going into the second season. So for anybody who kind of I kind of really kind of generically talked about the first season like severely. The second season the second season very much goes into much more of them starting to actually be like legitimately in the field. They actually start to very much seem to be like realizing where eventually their life is going to head to. They eventually get mixed in with a pro. They are a pro hero, and they get to be taught by this pro hero, and a lot of times they get to learn a thing or two. Some of them kind of get different kind of learning things, like especially the girl who's the like frog ash like character. Like she just learns to just clean a boat and how to do a boat, and that's like all she really learns. Seemingly, doesn't really seem like they do much, just because how much is a water hero like? What exactly are they going to consistently learn or do or whatever? But eventually she learns how to like take somebody down on her own, even if like the other people around her just aren't that powerful, because again with water superheroes there's only so much they can really do, or it doesn't really seem like they have much power. But anyways, we get down to it seeming like if not before, they were trying to very much like have like this evil regime of superheroes, because we ultimately have someone that is ultimately giving people quirks. Uh, in this season, we have this character called All for One, where it seems like he is divvying out quirks to people, or giving characters multiple quirks, and to where people are adjusting, realizing that, oh wait, this character I thought had this power, now he also has this. Okay. Um, Anyways, we get to a point, especially in this season, where a lot of the time it's like contest, contest, contest. It kind of really breaks much more down into like it seems like much more of like a Hunger Games season, without the actual fear of actual death. Like it kind of breaks down as much more if Quidditch for this thing was a constant. Um, like Quidditch is Harry Potter, but you get my drift. Like it's consistently like they have these consistent games to kind of award people points and stuff like that, and kind of ultimately give them a pass or failing grade to ultimately decide whether or not they're good enough to eventually become pros, eventually become pro heroes, or if they have a lot to learn. Um, Going into the second season, like very much instead of like consistently drilling home uh, what these people are to the audience, instead they actually focus on their individual stories that are driving them or pushing them to be a hero. Like, why are they undeniably just like, I need to be this hero so badly and I need to be the best? Because you find out through the story that, of course, the hero, that his power is being an engine. We find out that his brother had been paralyzed by a hero killer, and ultimately he wants to seek vengeance, but like he wants to seek vengeance for his brother, but he also like is trying to fight that because that is not the right way to be a hero. That is not the, and people tell him that. It's like if you're looking to seek vengeance, like that is not the way of being a hero. And so sadly enough, when this guy actually gets to his his one thing that he wants to like obtain and arrest and whatever, this hunter killer, he goes in there without thinking. He goes in there without really assessing. He goes in there like half cocked and gets hurt doing it, and then realizes that, oh, this is this guy's quirk. His quirk is to paralyze people. And then he kind of goes in there not realizing, oh crap, like I am going to die. Um, Before all that, we have a lot of times where like it's a big, huge like we have an entire season of just like these kind of like obstacle course like runs with these gigantic robots, and uh, we get to a point of uh, like whoever is the first to the very end of this like obstacle course gets a big gigantic amount of points, and of course that ends up right away being Deku, and ultimately the kid that is the descendant of All Might, technically. um, and a lot of people are starting to realize that this kid has very much uh, a one for all or all for one like power like All Might, and they're really just going like man, you have kind of like an All Might kind of power. This is kind of weird. Like it ends up the kid that has the quirk of half hot half cold or whatever, he ultimately goes to this kid, and he ultimately asks him, it's like, are you some kind of descendant of All Might? Are you some baby daddy of All Might, and like you're not telling anybody? um because ultimately this guy with this quirk ultimately is a descendant of I believe his name is Endeavor, or the a hero with very much like consistent flames around him. And I'm like, man, this hero is really fascinating to just kind of see him as a visual aspect of this hero consistently engulfed in power. It seems like he's very much a villain a lot of the times, but it seems like he's a hero that is really going to be a person that is like, you got to really warm up to him, because ultimately he realistically is just like a very douchebaggery-ish like hero that kind of doesn't have his feelings on a sleeve. It's weird. Anyways, we get to the point where in these contests it seems like very much we have like we find out like who are really gonna become friends, like who are really gonna be like there for one another. And we really find out that really cementing more that Deku is gonna have like a girlfriend at the end of all of this. But anyways, we get to the point to where, like I said, the kid going in there and his power is being an engine goes in there half cocked and really just kind of gets himself into hot water with a person with a quirk that can paralyze people. And so we have to have uh, the kid with the All Might power going and rescuing this kid with the engine power. And he, like, because ultimately it's bizarre that he ends up finding them, but again, like, he always uses strategy in the season to figure everything out. Because at first, like, he was probably going to help all the other heroes, but then he realizes, oh my god, where's where is this guy's sidekick? And then he goes running for him, and then realizes that he found um, this paralyzing quirk character, Stain. Um, Stain, I believe, is his power. And anyway, so we have it to where this kid is looking around, and there's already heroes that are like conked out, and he eventually calls other heroes because that's the whole thing. They have like social medias where they can like contact people. The only funny thing is when the half cold, half hot character appears, and he mentions like, yeah, you clearly didn't like give enough information about like not only just like you can't just leave your location, like you have to like tell us what's going on. Funny enough, because it's like people can just kind of go in there and people aren't aware of what's going on, but hey, just send a lot of people to this one location. I don't know why yet, but just go there. Um, because yeah, we have the one half cold or half hot, half cold a person that realizes that their friend is in danger and he goes to rush out, leaving Endeavor to just do whatever he needs to do because it's like, dude, you're the number two hero. What do I need to like support you for? But ultimately, this father and son relationship, like, it's funny how this son is trying to consistently just very much like not kind of give in to his father, and ultimately is not using his fire side because he doesn't want to um, honor his father by using his power. So he uses like his freezing power that he has from his mother, and yeah, it's kind of a very fascinating kind of um, that this boy ultimately is very defiant and like he's very much trying to befriend people and this and that, like especially in the first season because like it seems like this half hot half cold character was just kind of like a non-existent character. They took a lot of time to like kind of put in the kind of the bully Esh-like character that consistently um, was calling people morons and stuff like that, and really kind of drilling in the fact that like Deku isn't going to be the best hero that this kid is just because he can shoot these explosions and this and that. Where in the second season, like we go into seemingly Deku like starting to like brew into getting friendships and stuff like that, to where when it leads back into kind of the bully Ash like kid that ultimately is just calling people morons and telling them to shut up. And it kind of seems like this guy is going to head down a path of being a villain just because like he uh, it seems like no one can train him, no one can control him, no one can like no one can talk him down or talk him to the point of just like hey, like you need to change, you need to be a different person, like don't be this angry person. How about you much more streamline yourself? It gets to a point where bizarrely when this kid goes to this other pro place. He ultimately goes with this guy that his entire like outfit is completely made out of like blue jeans. I think his name was like Blue Genius or something like that. We consistently have this guy that is otherwise looking at this kid, and he's like God, this kid is just like his attitude is just awful, and like I don't know if there's any way I can just like figure out how to like change this kid. Um, and it's very fascinating to see like him try to adjust his hair and try to more streamline this guy, and it's not working. And to where this kid goes right back to just being much more angry and much more upset and just this and that. It's fascinating. But anyways, you you eventually get to the point to where every single one of these heroes are going after this, or there's three different heroes that are trying to desperately get this one hero killer down. And of course, they get taken down, they get paralyzed, and they have to try to get back up as quickly as possible. And a lot of them are getting really hurt and really stabbed and really just to where their hands are mangled or they're something like that. So they consistently like they have the one half hot half cold quirk character that's consistently blasting away. It's like, dude, it's like yeah, that's great, but like it's not really like it's clearly not exactly doing anything. It's just kind of like creating distance. um but eventually it gets to the point when these people can get back up, that eventually they kind of like 1-2 punch knock him out, and then they tie him up, but he still gets back up anyways. And yeah, just and then like this Stain character ends up kind of being like this kind of figure for the villains to just kind of draw people to be much more of a villain, because a villain might look cool, which I think is weird. But like the villains are kind of thinking that they can use this Stain Ash like character to uh to draw people to being villains, because ultimately like like they have a message now that they can deliver to the world, that the heroes are all fake, or um, that they're all this and that, or that they're like. It would be interesting to kind of see exactly if like heroes really did like turn on like really did turn and just kind of like just go like, yeah, this is what I thought it was going to be, and maybe they kind of play the fence a little bit, because they like maybe there is something about the heroes, maybe there is something that they don't realize, but I don't know. That was never really danced around with. We also have eventually where seemingly like heroes within this show can like eventually just kind of get money for being heroes, which I kind of thought was interesting. Like so yeah, we're kind of having like Tiger and Bunny, where I thought I loved that show, where we have like reality characters that are getting sponsored and very much getting TV time and stuff like that to be showcased and stuff like that on Tiger and Bunny. Like this one, they're hoping that eventually once they become pros, that they actually will get paid and live off of being heroes and stuff like that. You have one hero that ultimately just kind of becomes like this supermodel Ash, and she ultimately just hires like two other women, and she only hires them because they're good looking, and they don't do anything else. Like there's a lot of times where these students coming fresh out of the school get hired by these bigger heroes to really do not much of anything, or sometimes the only thing that they honestly and really truly do is just do like community service, or just kind of do kind of stuff that just kind of like doesn't really quite exactly make sense of why they need to do some of these things. But then again, there's also some heroes that are kind of used like for to be assistants to eventually help the heroes like kind of figure out like what they're gonna go into, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Um, we ultimately have one girl that has like these very long things coming out of her ears. They're like their hearing devices and stuff like that. So that's kind of fascinating. They do kind of a very much like Porky's kind of like hole in some kind of shower room at some point. Funny enough. Uh, yeah, I guess to kind of approach that eventually, hey, these uh, people are coming of age, and eventually they're gonna think about like girls or guys or whatever. So, anyways, yeah, we ultimately have one hero that kind of is annoying in the second season, where ultimately this character that her power barely ever gets used because she's just a scaredy cat, or he's a scaredy cat. Yeah, I want to say he's a scaredy cat. The one with like the purple balls on top of their head, they can like take the balls and kind of just like plop down and make other characters like sticky. Uh, this character is so annoying in this season because like this character is just there to be scared or just kind of there to just be like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get this. Like this character is like what the main character was in the first season a lot of times, where like they never thought that they were gonna be able to beat or win or whatever anything. Um, I did really like the whole like thing at the end where they have two people go up against one actual hero, and you have them to either decide to escape or handcuff their own heroes. All that they have to do is just get one handcuff on the hero and then they're done. So everybody tends to like realize that, oh my god, like this is much more challenging than we thought it was because the heroes are ultimately not pulling any punches, and all the students are all just like, well, I'm just gonna like bash my way through this. I'm just gonna use uh, I'm just gonna use my power and just blow through this and just like knock somebody out. Well, it doesn't work that way because they perfectly planned it to where it's just like, okay, well, if you're just going to punch your way through this, it's not going to work. You don't like, it's more than brute force. You have to think, you have to strategize, you have to communicate with the other person that you're working with to come up with some kind of plan. You can't come out here and just be winging it and hope for the best. But there's some teams that really do like easily and quickly like really like had a plan before all this, or they kind of rationalize a plan while doing this, or there's some characters that are just better than others. um but yeah, there's consistently this like amazing like great working together of these heroes when it or these students when you have these like gigantic heroes that can ultimately clone like 40 of themselves, or you have other heroes that of course can use like black holes and stuff like that to ultimately uh, suck people in and stuff like that. And then ultimately you have like the of course the one character that seems to be the overall kind of teacher that of course can take certain quirks out and stuff like that. Very fascinating kind of contests and stuff like that. Watching every single one of these. The only thing that I kind of don't like is it kind of like they really take one contest and they do like one hero against two students and they make like an entire episode about it. And I'm like, man, that kind of feels like filler. Like they're really taking this one thing and they're really stretching it out to make it for an entire episode. Like if they're really going to use a lot of episodes in the season, like I guess that's a really easy way to just go, yeah, we're going to make an entire episode just dedicated to this one contest and this and that. Um, but I guess it's probably just a great opportunity to individually like showcase people, because that's what happens in a lot of this second season. It's a lot of just showcasing of one character, and I think a lot of times that might feel like filler to a lot of people, or like some people might just go, "Oh yeah, you know, I didn't actually really care for this character before. Now I actually care about this character because I'm much more invested." because they actually took the time to give me one episode about one character. So I'm like, yeah, like I kind of felt that too. It was like overall, I kind of really liked everybody, just because I liked the investment of just having one episode per kind of students and this and that. Luckily, they didn't do. Um, luckily, like I liked the whole hero versus student aspect, to people to just have to outthink their heroes. But it would be kind of interesting if these characters just really did become villains. Then it would be fascinating to see that like these students taking out their own or their prior hero students or their prior heroes because ultimately they figured out their weakness. They figured out how to use stuff against them because this and that. So it honestly would become very fascinating if in this season, somewhere down the line, that the heroes want their students to like take an entire season to where they have to be villains, like they have to be the bad guy, because ultimately them learning like what a bad guy would do could ultimately push them to like kind of either counteract this or kind of figure out a way to ultimately um, like adjust, knowing that they've been in the mind of a villain for a long period of time, or ultimately it would kind of really um, kind of very much have people start to realize that you're like, you know what, I'd probably be better off as a villain anyways, so I'm gonna get out of here. Like I'm gonna leave. And then ultimately you just be like, oh, this character that I invested in for so long, now he's a villain just because like villain's things actually suit him better. I don't know. I think like I don't know. I don't think they would probably want to approach that, but I think that would be a very vastly interesting season if that hasn't already happened yet. Because I know there's probably 4 seasons now. There probably might be more, considering like they're really brushing out this show, and like ultimately it's probably a big hit for anime and this and that. Anyways, so yeah, like I said, eventually heroes go up against students. It's kind of interesting to see All Might going after his own like apprentice, as well as with the guy with consistently explosions, because they know that like polar opposites don't attract, because they like reasonably it kind of seems like some of the students are like easily beating a lot of stuff, or you have people that are like miserably failing. So it's kind of funny to see those polar opposites, but a lot of times you have like the people that it's like, well, yeah, but everybody still has to learn. Everybody's still like they still suck at what they do. Um, like they're there, but they're not quite there yet to really be left to their own devices or left to eventually become pros or like left like this. Like I would have kind of really liked if like there was very much like if we're gonna go and have heroes be mainstreamed, like I would have liked if like there was like a hero shop or something like that. Um, like I would have liked to there be kind of like because he went into a mall towards the end of this second season. I was like, shouldn't there be like a hero shop just in case somebody wants like a different kind of outfit or whatever? Like I don't know. Like looking at some of these characters are like, I think people could invest in the characters rather than like kind of like consistent clothes that they wear. And I know that that's probably a thing where it's just like, no, like I don't want anybody to change their outfits and stuff like that. I don't know. I just feel like some of the characters are just kind of like I don't know, like again for me, like some characters don't quite have the right outfits at some points. Or realistically, it's just kind of like it'd be cool to like see like what a huge difference like they started out and to where now like they look completely different to where they were originally, and this and that. Um, yeah. Um, again, it's kind of bizarre to see like Deku like basically not even wearing his like mask the entire time, because like he barely wore it in the first season. No, he's not even wearing it in the second season. Like it's gonna get to the point where what is the point of the mask anymore? I guess it's just a consistent thing. I get it. I actually kind of like there is kind of this fight in me that kind of feels like these characters should kind of be like very much like heroes that don't quite make sense at some points, where their outfits look super generic and this and that. But I don't know. I like a streamlined kind of thing. Um, like I like people like to best represent like if your power is being Spider-Man, like I'm not saying like throw on a Spider-Man logo, like why not have like webs on your costume and stuff like that? Why not have like this and that? I think maybe the character that has like the engine quirk, like I think have him having a very much like knight like outfit kind of works. Uh, like I don't know, like I don't quite know. Anyways, um. Yeah, going into this, yeah, eventually having All Might kind of fight his character, and really All Might being heavily like overpowering compared to the students is just kind of fun to see and fun to watch. To kind of see somebody overpowering somebody and like them thinking that there's no way to win, but this one kid is just stubborn, and he's just like, no, like I am gonna beat All Might, and the other kid Deku is just like, you are insane, like you're thinking you're going to beat All Might. All Might, the guy, you are insane. We need to run. Like, we need to run. This is All Might we're talking about. Like, there's no way we're going to beat this character. But this kid is just so stubborn. Like, he is going to completely destroy his entire body to figure out a way to handcuff All Might, to beat him, to take him down. And I guess that's a good thing to really teach a hero that like in the face of danger they won't run away, they won't walk away from a fight. But like it's just the fact that like it gets to the point where this kid feels like he should be the only one to take down All Might. Like, I think that they could have really consistently kept strategizing around All Might and kept like switching off powers, consistently kept adapting, consistently kept like kind of doing little hits here and there. Um, Consistently kept like circling around All Might and this and that. But then again, like these people weren't on the same page, so uh, so the kid that has All Might's power eventually just punches the other kid and then grabs him and runs, and to basically force him for them to win, to escape, because that's the whole thing. When you feel like you are going to be overpowered, like at first do a couple pop offs, but then after that it's like, okay, we're running now, we're escaping. This is our strategy, and this and that. Um, and eventually, some people will surprise you. A lot of people that seem to have like crappy powers that like, really, how is this person gonna all of a sudden bizarrely just like have one up against these heroes? And then bizarrely, this person, once you think that they're doing absolutely nothing, aha, they had some hidden master plan this entire time, and boom, here they go, and wow, wow. And so then you realize that um, this person was like thinking a couple steps behind, but didn't tell the other teammate, and like the girl that could just start like crafting things out of nowhere, like eventually we find out she had a bunch of like grenades that she came up with, and she pretty much like was stalling or taking down her hero for her just to come back to her other uh, hero that's half cold half hot, and kind of coming back and coming for him, and eventually they were going to go through this together. And they came up with some kind of mechanism for them to beat their hero. Interesting, fascinating, good season overall. I kind of eventually want to keep seeing where these seasons go, but good God. Man, these episodes are very, very long. Like it seems like the longer we go, like the longer the episodes are per every season. So I'm gonna get out of here because I've been talking for a very long-winded amount of time. So I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.